Size matters in recruiting. And with the University of Miami, I'm going to use that as an example for why the Canes are going to win big because of the size they're bringing in.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one network in the country for anything that you're going to do with sports podcast, football, basketball, college, pro. We have everything right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to be discussing the University of Miami from a recruiting perspective and specifically size. Defensive tackle is something we're going to get to. Miami has changed the game and how they've gone about it, not just from a bringing in good players from a transfer portal standpoint, but the high school ranks. They have a very interesting theory that I totally get and why Mario Cristobal and his staff are going with it. We're going to talk about that later in the show. We're also going to discuss wide receiver. Boundary receivers are hard to find. Miami has set the trend this year with how they've recruited better than anybody else at that spot. And we're obviously going to talk about offensive line and Jackson Cantwell. That's where I start on this show. The Miami Hurricanes have made smart decisions with their offensive line recruiting. Very smart decisions. You go all in on Cantwell, but you also brought in guys that are fit for your program, fit for your scheme, and just have the raw skills to play multiple spots that are big guys. They're not going to get pushed around by anybody in terms of mass or length. And that's where we start. I had the opportunity to be around Jackson Cantwell at the Under Armour All-American game this past January. Great family, great young man. And oh my goodness, is he a behemoth. 6'7-ish, 315 to 325 range, just on the hoof. But it's how he moved and how he honestly not just hit people, but like just completely dislodged them with just basic movement, like things you can't teach. And for those that don't know, to put it in perspective how strong this young man is, he's put up multiple videos with his dad bench pressing over 500 pounds. He did it this past spring. So he wasn't even old enough to vote yet, and he's benching over 500 pounds, full all the way down to the chest and up. And he's long. Size isn't just weight. It is how tall you are. It is your length, etc. The longer you are, as a guy who likes to lift, the longer you are, those guys usually suck at bench press because it's a longer rep. Cantwell's got very long arms. He is the prototypical NFL measurements for an offensive tackle already, which is crazy. And he's benching over 500 pounds. So the size they're bringing in, the length they're bringing in, that is a future starter, I think, almost day one for the Canes. Maybe he replaces Francis Mauigoa, the right tackle for Miami that'll probably turn pro after this year. You just don't get those kinds of guys. If you're going to go out and spend the NIL money, and they certainly did, great decision. And on that note, I could pick 3 or 4 different guys, but I'm going to go with somebody I know. Do not discount Cannon Pickett. This is a guy that was highly recruited. Clemson wanted him. Florida wanted him. Whole lot of schools wanted Cannon Pickett. He's a guy I saw as a freshman when he was at Wharton High School at the time. And I'm like, who is that? He's a kid that grew into his frame, and his brother's at Miami, totally different body types. His brother's 6'3", 215, something like that, 220. But he's 315 pounds. He could play guard. He could play tackle. He's practiced snaps. He's done a little bit of everything. So he has the length and the size and all that to play tackle if you need him to do it. I've seen him in 5-on-5 competitions. I've seen him in games. I've seen him in practices all the way up. Versatility matters too with the size and the length. Mario Cristobal is no fool when it comes to bringing in linemen. He played it at the U, and Alex Mirabal, his good buddy, is the O-line coach. They're making smart decisions up front. Linemen win games. Miami has not reached the pinnacle yet, but if they keep recruiting like this, it gives them a better chance. So offensive line, I'm all in on the Canes and how they're doing. They have 6. We'll get into defensive line in a little bit. They have 7 there. And overall, here's a great point. 13 of their 29 current commitments, as I do this on a Friday morning, 13 of 29 play offensive or defensive line in some capacity. They are devoted to getting size, getting length, and overpowering their opponents, and in some cases, overpowering it even with athleticism too. Guys like Cantwell, Pickett, they can do that. But let's also talk about why that's so important. When you play other quality teams and you look at their future schedules, like they play at Notre Dame next year for the rematch game, you're going to need it. You're going to have to play against Florida State every year. And while that program is obviously up in shambles right now, it won't be long. They'll be pretty good again. Clemson, they're not going to be down forever either. And you're still trying to get into the playoff. When you play in Alabama in the playoff, when you play in Oregon in the playoff, when you play Texas or Ohio State in the playoff, you're not going to just out scheme them. Sometimes you need guys that can lean on the opponent and just be better. Miami has gotten tremendously better in the trenches. That 2022 Miami team, when Cristobal took over, I remember covering some of that. And I was at that Duke game. The length in the trenches was a problem against Duke. Like they weren't good enough offensive line-wise to handle Duke. It wasn't close. Say whatever you want about Cristobal, game day, etc. The roster is going to be even better next year than it is this year because of the way they're recruiting. It will set them up for long-term success. And on that, they didn't screw around at boundary receiver either. This is one of the more extraordinary things that I've seen in smart recruiting. We're going to talk about that next year on the Portal Podcast. Miami did not mess around with wide receiver. Today's show is brought to you by those who are interested in having some fun during watching college football with DoorDash. And it's almost the weekend, so it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP who has delivered, powered by DoorDash, just like you can deliver every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. For Miami, it's really just that defense in general. I'm not going to pick one guy, but they have really improved their game. Watching them last season was so frustrating. The defense, you can pick whichever one you want. Doesn't make any difference. They've devoted themselves to team football. That's the way Miami should be. And when they do, when they rally to the ball, whether it's Ruben Bain or whether it's anybody else in the middle, it doesn't make any difference. They've had defensive linemen, safeties, everybody stepped up. That makes a difference in your program. It changes things. And just like that, somebody like a Ruben Bain that delivered for Miami, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. Save every time you order on a Saturday. Stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code is good through November the 18th. And we are also brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, the NBA is getting in full swing, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to be riding that hot hand as the game gets moving, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even use your bets in live situations to turn into a same-game parlay. It keeps the game more exciting. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when you hit on that first $5 bet. Head over to FanDuel.com and sign up and run your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day. I am Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. This was going to be a live show. I've got to get on the road and head out to go scout some kids in Georgia tonight. So I wanted to get this out. I told Alex Dono of Locked on Canes I was going to do this, and I enjoy these kinds of previews. I'm going to be doing more and more of them as we get closer to signing day. Shout out to everybody that follows recruiting. December 3rd is not that far away. Miami, I'll cover Texas, I'll cover Ohio State, everybody under the sun, Auburn, you name it. I'm going to do previews like this of what's coming up, who they're expected to sign, and what I like and dislike about their classes. But to that end, let's continue on with the Canes. Boundary receiver, this is insane. They've got technically 3 for sure, and depending on how you want to run your offense, 4 guys that could play boundary from this class. So Mario Wingo, that wouldn't be perfect. He's what I would call the perfect flanker, guy that plays out wide, that's fast, that's agile, makes crazy catches. He's that guy. But follow me here for this for just a second. Israel Briggs kid out of California, 6'4 plus, 205. Played linebacker. He's been a punt returner. He's been a receiver. He's been a tight end. He's done all kinds of stuff. There's one boundary receiver. Tyron Evans, 6'3 plus out of North Carolina. Almost the exact same thing. He's a guy that's a big body guy that can play boundary, built for it. Absolutely a boundary guy. And then Mylon Paris, a kid they just recently got out of Ohio. He's 6'5 plus, and he's over 200 pounds as well. And then on top of that, one of my favorite players in the country, size matters, but in different ways. You got to be smart. There's certain positions, height is not as important. It's about twitchiness. Size matters at slot too. You need smaller guys that can make defenders miss, make that corner who just, you know what, I'm going to bump this guy on this play. I'm going to disrupt his route. Good luck against Vance Spafford. I think he's the best slot receiver in this class. You're eventually going to pair him in some capacity. I don't know how they're going to do it yet. But with Malachi Toney, is Miami going to go with some more twins on each side? 2 slots? I think it would be a good idea. So while Spafford's about my height, I'm 5'10", you're not going to catch him very often. I've seen him and videoed him running a 4.35 electronic. You put that kid out there with the size, that is, again, very smart recruiting by Mario Cristobal in the Miami Hurricanes. They did a great job. But overall, size still matters in terms of the way you traditionally think of it, height and length. So let's talk a little bit about their defensive line recruiting. They just recently flipped Keyshawn Stansel, a kid out of North Carolina, big defensive lineman, 6'3", 280, somewhere in that range, from Clemson. This is a kid that has the twitch and the size and athleticism combination that you really need at defensive tackle in today's game. Because look, I don't care if it's a below average P4 team, and even some of these FCS and G6 programs, everybody can throw it. Hike one step back, you let it rip. You can't sack the quarterback. But when you do get a chance, you got to capitalize. If it is a 3-second or longer set, you got to have somebody in their face. Keyshawn Stansel is one of those guys that's long. He's a big body guy. He can play nose, he can play 3-tech, and he has the ability to be impactful even when it's an obvious passing situation. Most guys over 280, they're not very good pass rushers. And that's why most college defensive tackles, that's the end of their career. To get to the NFL, you need that quick twitch to be an effective pass rusher in some capacity, unless you are an absolute beast, that 350 guy that just plays nose guard. Stansel isn't that. He has a chance to be an NFL player one day if he continues to improve his craft. He's a rare specimen. To that end, they've got 7 defensive linemen overall, but I just wanted to use him. They have different barometers for what they have. The Lafayette kid, he's undersized. I don't think he'll ever be a dominant player at Miami, but if you just need a pass rusher, that's what he's going to be. Lafayette is a kid out of Orlando, plays at Lake Nona. He's got the twitch. They use size in different ways with this recruiting class. I'm good with it. I think Miami probably did the other thing here, and I'm just going to say the awkward part out loud. Every school recruits kids that, while they have all the right stuff in terms of what could be, some kids are going to get hurt. Some kids are going to get in trouble. Some kids don't have the dedication to be elite at a program like a Miami or Ohio State or whatever it may be. But if you sign, again, I mentioned this prior, 13 of your 29 signees are linemen, just the law of averages. You have a higher chance to hit with linemen than most other schools. And they're signing a lot of high-end guys anyway. At some point, that is going to pay dividends for the Miami Hurricanes. It's just math. It is smart recruiting. Hats off to Miami. While this class isn't top 5, I think it's somewhere in the 8 to 10 range, probably by my measurements, because it's not just like you add up the points on any of these recruiting services. Did you get linemen, and did you get a quarterback? And that's the last thing I'm going to end on here in a second, is Darion Coleman. But did you get linemen? Look at the schools that made it to the Final Four last year. They predominantly just recruited linemen from the high school ranks at an elite level. Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, and Notre Dame. They put guys in the NFL at D-line and O-line consistently. That is where Miami has trended for the last few years. In this class, puts them in that category. They still have other things they need to do, but there's not going to be a problem with size and length in the trenches or at boundary receiver, the other albatross position for a lot of schools. I mean, they just got 3 minimum. They're in a good spot. But I do want to finish with my guy, Darion Coleman. Love that kid's personality and what he has between the ears. Really smart kid. Darion Coleman is the kind of guy that understands, yeah, I've got arm talent. Yeah, I'm a great athlete. I'm accurate. I can do all those things. But when you talk to him about any situation, then you expect a response. It becomes a true conversation. You're not talking to him, you're talking with him. Most kids that are in high school, they have no idea really how to read coverages. It becomes a full-blown conversation. He even started one of those conversations with me last year at OT7. He was on the sidelines in between games. I'm just shooting the breeze with him. And he's talking about another kid at the tournament that didn't get it. And he was explaining to me why. That's the difference between being a good college player that can pick apart zone, but also understanding combo coverages and being able to uplift your wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. He's a little bit different, and he's dedicating himself to it. Ironically, size is his negative. He's 6 foot, give or take. He's 180 maybe by the time he enrolls, but the last time I talked to him, he was 160 something. I don't know where he's at now, but he's never going to be a big guy. He may never be 200 pounds at Miami, but his ability to use the size in his brain, he's got a big brain, man. He is smart. Will also benefit in Miami. He's not the fastest kid in the world, but he's got enough juice. He can go get you 15, and his arm is incredible. Mixed in with that offensive line, Jackson Cantwell in particular, Cannon Pickett, etc., they're going to be a handful. Miami's not where they need to be yet, but this recruiting class is a little bit undervalued in my opinion. Again, I got them a little higher than some of the other services. It's because of the linemen. The receiver position is really unique in college football now. There aren't that many boundary receivers anybody really wants. Miami went and got some. And then you got Coleman. Very rare player among others. I didn't go through the whole class, but I wanted to give a barometer of why they're good. This class is better than people know, and they made smart decisions. I really like this Miami class, and I hope you enjoyed this overview. But think about that regardless of which school you're looking at with the class. Did they get linemen? Did they get size? Did they get length? Those are the traits that really help teams get over the top and make a run for the playoff. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's a lot of fun for me. I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you again soon here on the Portal Podcast.